Okay. What an honor we have today to have Liz Hartke speaking with us. Liz is actually my coach and my really good friend, and I've learned so much from her in the last 5 years, which is crazy that it's 5 years this next month. I know it's nuts. But she really is, I know you all know, the queen of vision. And in our entire company, she is at the top when it comes to this topic. And so I'm super excited for us to hear from her, to be charged by her wisdom in this area. Um, Liz, and I didn't even ask you, I know some of these things off the top of my head, but you're going to have to fill in the blanks. But I know Liz has been a coach now for 9 years.
Almost, it'll be 9 years this spring.
Okay, almost 9 years. 15 Star Diamond, Million Club / Legacy Club, and has really taken the vessel of Beachbody and done incredible things for her whole life, and is building this incredible legacy for her family. And one of my favorite things about Liz is how she talks about how she envisioned this before there was ever a glimpse, before the first step. She envisioned the house, she envisioned the family before she met her husband. And I think it's such a powerful skill for us all to learn how we actually do that. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Liz. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And then we'll have a little bit of Q&A time at the end, you guys as well.
Thanks, Jess. I have to say, once in a blue moon, you get people like Jess on your team. And it was funny because when Jess was coming into the business, my business had really taken off at that point, and I had the luxury of not having to be in the hustle of my business at that point. And what I saw that do, Jess is a special person, so this wouldn't happen to anybody. But because she is resourceful and was growing into leadership herself, it allowed that me kind of taking a step back made her even more resourceful and made her chase her own vision without having to be reliant on me, which is why she's developed herself into such an incredible leader of her team and within the network. So that's one of the things I'm going to talk about today, is this idea of leadership and creating vision and why it's such a powerful thing. And for me, and I think there might be a line not muted, Jess, but I don't think I can control any of it. So for me, that started at a really young age. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, and my mom had her own business. My dad, my aunts and uncles, my grandparents. So it was very much a piece of our lifeblood growing up, and that was what I knew. It was really cool to me that my parents didn't go off to some corporate job, that they could be really flexible, and they were at our ball games for me and my siblings, and that they were around the dinner table, and my mom made her big Italian and Arabic feast that we got to have every night together. And it was such a gift. It was also something I took for granted, right? Because I was just kind of used to mom and dad being present. But one thing I do remember, and it's one of my earlier memories, is getting up and probably being like 3 or 4 years old and getting up to go use the bathroom in the middle of the night at like midnight or 1 a.m. And I would see, as I'd go down the hall to the bathroom, I'd see the dining room light on at that late hour, and I'd kind of peek in, and it was dimmed so it wouldn't wake anybody up. My mom would be sitting there with all her briefcase open and all her papers strewn all over the dining room table. And that was because she had built a successful business that provided for our family, but it was a business that allowed for flexibility, but not true freedom. And that's a really common thing in the entrepreneurial space, especially when you start your own business from the ground up, is that you allow yourself this opportunity for flexibility, but a lot of people mistake it for freedom. And that is one of the treasures of network marketing, is that you can actually build a business that allows for freedom if you do it right, if you leverage vision and leadership and you pour into it over time. And the reason that not everybody gets to experience that, it's not an automatic, it's not just compound effect. It takes a lot of strategy and commitment and personal growth to get there. But the reason that so few people ever achieve it is because of what you have to withstand and grow through in order to make that happen. My first 3 or 4 years of coaching, I was literally talking to myself. Am I breaking up for you, Jess?
Just
a
a
little
little.
bit.
I wanted to make sure it wasn't just me.
I wouldn't be surprised. We live in the boonies and we have a snowstorm right now. So let me know if it's too broken up and I can try and play with it a little bit. Let me see if I can close something out on my computer that might help.
I can mostly hear you. It's just choppy. It's just choppy a little bit.
Okay. Hold on one sec, guys. Let me see if this helps at all. That. All right, we'll give this a shot. Okay, so let me know though, Jess. Just interject if I'm a little too choppy. I can also try shutting my video and turning it back on. Sometimes that helps. So, or I can call in and I can speak from my phone.
Okay, I'll let you know. I think let's try for a little bit and then I'll just interrupt you if I have to. And yeah.
Cool. So what I've seen now being in this business for almost 9 years is that people never get out of the flexibility stage. So they come into Beachbody coaching, maybe ultimately they leave their full-time job and they like tout this excitement of, oh, I have time freedom, when in reality they just have time flexibility. They don't have time freedom. They have to be working to be earning at some point in their day. Even if they have the ability to work at midnight instead of at 3 p.m., that's fine, but they still have to work. They still have to hustle. They still have to sell challenge packs. They still have to sign up new people. But the opportunity is there with network marketing, and that's an opportunity that's not there in a lot of other business models. You might see a bunch of influencers in the online space where they're like, whether it's a true influencer with a couple 100,000 followers and they're sharing all these products and it looks like they have a glamorous life. Trust me, they're hardly making any money and they spend like 23 hours a day on their phone. Or the people who started their own online businesses outside of network marketing, same thing. They paint this beautiful picture, but they're busting their butt and it's feast or famine in their business because if they're not launching or taking on more clients, they're not earning. But network marketing has this really cool structure to it that when you apply the principles of leadership both to yourself, so you lead yourself first, and then you learn to develop leadership in the people in your organization, even from an early stage. It doesn't matter if anyone on this call is relatively new to this. This is something you can do right from the get-go. It gives you the opportunity to duplicate yourself and develop leadership within your organization, which is going to help the long-term growth and the ability to build for that longevity, both in your income and for your team. And I remember in the early stages of my business, I was talking to my mentor and I would constantly be asking him, my upline, Keith Callahan. So I'd be asking him all the time, hey, Keith, okay, I really want to have more challenge pack sales. I want to hit a higher success club number, or I want to bring more people onto my team this month. Can you hit me with the strategy that's going to help me do that? Should I use my email list, or what can I be saying on social media that's going to help that happen? Or how do I have better retention with Shakeology so that my numbers, my volume grow? And every single time it would drive me freaking crazy that Keith's response was always something about, it was never the strategy. It wasn't like, hey, use this subject line or try this type of post or anything like that. It was always like foundational principles that never changed with any algorithms or shifts in the marketplace. They were just things that always remained true, but they weren't what I wanted because I wanted the quick answer. I wanted the strategy, like, I'm coachable. Tell me what to do and I will do it. His response was always something like, well, why do you feel like you need to do that? Or what do you think, who do you think you need to become in order to achieve that goal? Or, well, where does that thought process or that belief system come from for you? And I'm like, listen, you hippie, I'm sick of talking about my energy and my emotions. I just want you to tell me what to do in this business. But with time, I started to see that, well, okay, Keith is a millionaire and I'm not. So maybe I should start to pay attention to the things that he's saying in this business and applying them because I want him to tell me in my way, but I don't know the right way because I haven't walked this path yet, but he had, and he had done it in a way that I wanted to do it. He had done it in integrity with himself and his values and his family and all those things that meant a lot to me. And what I learned was when I asked Keith, hey, Keith, what are your goals for this year? Thinking that he'd tell me like a rank advancement goal or a financial goal. And I was excited to hear his because that would help me craft what mine should be. And his goal was like, my goal in this business is to have you outgrow every aspect of everything I've done as a coach. was like, what? He's one of the top earners in the company still to this day, had spoken at all the summits and done all these things. And I'm like, you want me to outgrow you? What do you mean? And he brought me back to a John Maxwell quote that says, a leader of followers wants to be needed. A leader of leaders wants to be exceeded. So it's a leader of followers wants to be needed. A leader of leaders wants to be exceeded. So let me break that down for you. 99% of the Beachbody coaches in this company fall in the earlier camp. They want to be needed. They want their teams to want them. They want people to join their team. They want people to click like on their posts. They want to be seen. They want their name in lights. They want to walk across the stage. They want to speak at the summits. They want to speak on the National Wake Up Call. That's where they live. And that's where they live the remainder of their time as a coach. A very, very small percentage, probably less than 1%, fall in the second category, like Keith did, of a leader of leaders wants to be exceeded, where the goal is less about your own performance, your own metrics, your own boxes that you get to check and the accolades that you get to shout from the rooftops, and more about what you're doing for your people. And your success is going to follow the success of your people. So Keith had this gift of having someone on his team and pulling that leader out of them, helping them become the person that they were called to be in order to do the thing they want to do. So there's a 4-step process that I've kind of just extracted from my experience as being a coach. And these are the 4 things to help you get to that level of where you say you want to go in your business. And that might be different for all of you. Some of you, it might be like, I just want to get out of this job. Other people might, I just want to pay off my debt. I want to travel the world. I want to change the world, and everything in between. So the first step is believe, right? So in order for you to start to advance your business and to experience the glory of what's possible in this business, you have to believe. You have to believe in what's possible. You have to be able to cast that vision and stay true to that vision, no matter how difficult it is, and no matter how much it feels like you're shouting into space and nobody's listening, because that's often what many years of this business are. So you have to develop that belief muscle, even when you don't necessarily have the evidence that you should have a reason to believe. It's like faith, right? Like, you don't get to say, I'll believe in you, God, when you come down here to earth and tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, by the way, I'm God. Like, these are all the things I'm going to do for you. Let me prove it to you. Let me wake someone up from the dead right in front of you and do all these things. Faith, you don't get to have that evidence beforehand. You have to have that trust. So the first step is believe. And then as you do, so this is the step of leading yourself, but remember, you have to mirror this with your people. So when you have a challenger come in, your number one job as their coach is to believe in them before they are even ready to believe in themselves, so that they can start to trust and learn how to believe themselves, right? So you want to pass on that gift of belief to them. You do it for your coaches too. They're going to come in and they're going to be these shaky little giraffe legs where they have no freaking clue what they're doing. And you talk about Emerald and Success Club, and they just asked their Aunt Mary to buy and she said no, and they're feeling really wobbly and shaky. You have to cast that vision of belief and help them grasp on to where it is they want to go, despite their current circumstances, despite how hard it is, despite the evidence that's saying they're absolutely crazy for even considering continuing forward, because everything they've experienced thus far tells them that this isn't going to turn into a 6-figure business. This isn't going to turn into a life-changing opportunity. This is crazy. So that belief is so critical. So that's the first step. Then you want to walk into yourself this idea of achieve, right? So the steps are believe, achieve, receive, and sustain. So I'm going to walk you through each of those 4 things and what they mean and why they're so relevant to this process. So achieve is kind of like your grit, right? Like your strategy, your ability to show up, your ability to take out that business activity tracker and just do the work. A lot of us can do that. We can check boxes, we can send the X amount of invites, we can take the social media strategy and we can apply it. We can watch that training on how to grow your email list and we can start to leverage that. That's the achievement thing. And a lot of people can achieve something before they're ready to actually receive it, because we can work hard, right? And we can Google and we can YouTube and we can ask questions and we can try things and we can apply them. So once you believe, you can start to step into achievement where you're actually doing the work. But the problem is people put so much of their energy and focus on achievement, they never get past that point. Leadership happens in the final two steps. So that first step, believe, you have to develop that belief, you have to have that vision, cast the vision, keep your eyes on that vision, and your eyes have to be up, right? Because if you keep your eyes down and you're focused on the day to day, you'll quit. Because most days you're going to get no's. Most days you're going to be like talking to yourself. But then you get into achieve. And it's like, okay, now I'm humming, I'm having some success, I'm hitting Success Club. You guys are here because you hit that goal, which is awesome. But are you also developing yourself in the process? Are you starting to tip the scales into leadership? I know people who have paralleled my journey in time frame. So they too have been 9 years in the business. They're still nowhere even remotely close to getting past the achieve category. And they probably never will because they're not aware of this. But the receive is, are you becoming the version of yourself that is capable of receiving the achievement that you just attained? So when you see a lottery winner, what very often happens when that person brings in $400 million? Somehow, which I don't even fully understand how, they lose it all, or they get divorced, or they end up estranged from their family. Like shit hits the fan. Why is that? It's because they were picked up and they were plopped into that achievement, but they didn't evolve in the process of making it happen. So they weren't really ready to hold on to it, which is why it was, they couldn't fully receive it. They couldn't fully grasp it. They couldn't fully appreciate it. And it's also why when you set a goal for yourself, like diamond or 2-star diamond, 10-star, or whatever your success club, and you hit it, that your first thought isn't, oh my gosh, I did it, this feels so good. It's, okay, what's the next thing? Because you're not actually receiving it. You're not actually becoming and evolving into the person that's capable of that. You haven't worked through your crap yet. You still have the traumas of your childhood, or you still have the voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, or you're eventually going to fail, or you still have that thing that your mom or your dad said to you when you were a kid that you still believe as a 35-year-old woman. Like whatever it is, you haven't fully grown into that version of yourself in leadership. And then the other thing is sustain. So when you want to sustain a high level of growth, what most people see in the entrepreneurial journey specific to network marketing is this, right? Like everyone talks about the entrepreneurial roller coaster. It's like, oh yeah, things are going great. Oh crap, it's a bad month. Oh, don't worry, I got it back. And some people just hang their hat on that and they're like, yeah, this is just network marketing. This is just Beachbody. Like that's the thing. Don't worry about it. It's okay. You're gonna have these peaks and valleys. That's true. But if your entire journey looks like this the whole way through, you haven't evolved in leadership. What it should look like, because picture a bar going through that, right? So you have the peaks and valleys along a line. But the problem is that bar for most people is horizontal. What it should be is like this. So yes, your peaks and your valleys, but you're continually growing as you go. Your ceilings become your floor and you continue to evolve from that point. Am I breaking up, Jess, or am I good? Good. Okay, cool. So that's the sustain. It's like you start to develop this success and there will be valleys. That's okay. That's like, I experience them all the time, but I still have the staying power. I have the team developed and the funnels developed to continue to bring people in. I have the leaders in my organization that are doing the work and believing in the dream, and they're achieving and receiving and sustaining too, so that when I take my foot off the gas for a minute, the engine is still plowing forward ahead because of what I've built in this business. So the sustaining is such an important piece. That's how you build for the long haul. That's how you play the long game. And the problem is most people see things very short-sighted. What are my goals for February? What are my goals for 2021? If I were to ask you what your goals as a Beachbody coach are for 2024, could you tell me? And would your calendar in 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024 reflect you actually making that happen? Or is it just this big picture vision that you posted on your pretty vision board, but you have no actual plan or roadmap or proof that you're going to get there? And the proof isn't, oh, look at all these things I've done successfully. The proof is I pull out my calendar and I have, for the next 2 years, because I have this big goal, 3 days a week are booked with calls of people who want to be joining my team. And a day a week is dedicated to helping my leaders grow. And it's like, that's the proof. The proof is in the pudding of like, what am I doing? I have an entire day dedicated to my own growth. What am I reading? What am I studying? And how am I embodying leadership versus just talking about it and like spouting John Maxwell quotes? There's a very big difference between reading and absorbing something and applying and embodying something. And that sustaining comes in the embodiment. It comes in your commitment to be the leader that you're called to be and to really show up as that leader. And one of my best examples of this in this process is evolution of believe, achieve, receive, and sustain. In the early stages of my business, this is pre-Jess, I would host a weekly team call. And it was before Zoom was a thing, and it was on a call-in line. Like everybody had a phone number they dialed into, and I could pull up a dashboard on my computer and I could see what phone numbers were calling in, but nobody could like see each other or anything. It wasn't video, it was just on their phone. And I remember doing those calls and no one would show up. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not just like speaking in hyperbole. I'm literally talking about the only number that showed up in the dashboard was mine. So I'd hang up because I'm like, well, nobody's here. And I'd cry about it and I'd be defeated and I'd be like, how is this ever going to happen? And then I'd schedule the call for the next week and no one would show up. And I'd schedule the call for the next week and no one would show up. And finally I was like, screw this. I'm not going to keep talking to nobody. Like I was so nervous. And the call was an hour that I would not bullet out what I was going to talk about. I would write a script that lasted about an hour, which is like 20 single space pages. I prepped all week for these calls. So when I finally started to understand that it wasn't about what I wanted to achieve or what I wanted to do or the goals I wanted to hit, but it was about who I was becoming in the process, I had to stop dreaming about this big vision for my future and the stages that I wanted to stand on at Summit and the people that I wanted to lead and the goals I wanted them to achieve on my team, how many 5 stars I wanted, how I wanted to hit 10-star and all these amazing things. Well, I'm scheduling calls every week and hanging up and not hosting them because I knew that the person that would be able to both achieve, receive, and sustain the business that I was envisioning was the type of person who showed up no matter what. When there was no cheering section, when there was no one like validating all the work they put in, when there was no one there even to receive the content. So what I started doing was I started hosting those calls and I would host them. And oftentimes I was literally the only person on the call. And I would do it from the start to the finish, the full hour. And the way I looked at it was, I have to embody who I know I ultimately need to be to get to where I say I want to go. I can't like not embody it and then show up for it when it shows up for me. It doesn't work like that. Similar to the faith thing. You have to be it before you can achieve it. You have to be it before you can maintain it and sustain it. So I would show up for those calls every week. And then I was thinking, well, the leader I want to be wants to be on those stages someday and speak on the National Wake Up Call. But I don't really know anything about speaking. So this is a perfect opportunity for me to become a better speaker. Instead of just hoping that someday Beachbody asks me to speak on the stage and then I get that opportunity, I'm like, oh shit, I literally have never spoken to anyone on anything for the last couple of years. I showed up for my first opportunity. I was in they flew me out to LA. I was pregnant with my first baby. This was like a little over 6 years ago. And they fly me out to LA and they put me up in this really nice swanky hotel and they had me speak on a Super Saturday video. And I got to be there with a bunch of the super trainers and it was awesome. But guess what? At that point, I had been speaking for 4 years. Granted, it was to myself a lot of that time, but I had honed that skill. And then because I killed it on that Super Saturday video, Guess what they did next? They asked me to speak on a national wake up call. And then because I hit the nail on the head with the national wake up call, they asked me to speak at Summit every single year. And then because I was doing well at Summit, they asked me to speak at Leadership multiple times. So when you show up, when no one's sitting there like, yay, we love your content, we love what you're doing, thank you for making that impact, you're honing the skills that you need to become the version of yourself required in order to hit the thing you want to hit. What most people do is they envision the thing, they have the belief, they're super excited about it, and then they just do their like little behaviors, like their business activity tracker, and they think like compound effect. I read that book. Eventually, if I just keep doing the same thing over and over for a really long time, I'll get up here. Like, no, that's insanity. That's not how this works. You have to evolve in who you're becoming and really step into leadership if you want to be able to lead others. And people to join your team, they're not going to join because they think Beachbody is really cool. They're not going to join just because you say, hey, we're the team that is hosting the best challenge groups or we're selling the most product. They're going to join because they want to invest in you and your mission. Like, they're investing in you as the leader, because if they don't believe in you as the leader, they'll go find another leader that will guide them. So I know a lot of coaches get really discouraged because they're like, well, I can't seem to bring people on. It's like, because you haven't fully invested in becoming that leader yet that other people want to invest in. So what can you do and how can you spend more time getting there? And one way to make this a more strategic process, so it doesn't just feel like this like pie in the sky idea, is to really break this down for yourself and really figure out what this looks like. So what stands between the person you are today and the person you are seeking to become, the one that's capable of 10 star, the one that's capable of the $1 million, the one that's capable of the team of 5,000 people, in order to fully live the life you feel most called to through Beachbody. So what stands between you today and that person? Are they really crappy habits that you have? Do you spend a ton of time scrolling on your phone that's not serving you or your business? Do you have broken narratives that you've adopted as your own truth, like that you're not good enough or that you compare yourself to other people? Do you have money blocks that you're just like, you get really skeeved out by talking about money and the opportunity of obtaining more money? Do you have priority issues? Like, you keep talking about this business you're going to build, but Netflix keeps finding its way into your life, or you spend so much time like building on social media, hoping that if you build it, they will come, but you're not actually in the process of inviting people and bringing people in. Is it toxic relationships that are holding you back? Communication issues? Is it your health? Like, have you gone all in? This is the most like basic thing ever, it seems, but guess what? A lot of people don't do it. Have you gone all in on a Beachbody program? And then when you finish that one, gone into the next one. And when you finish that one, gone into the next one. Like, are you all in on your health journey and sharing that process? Another thing you can look at in that process of becoming is, what do you need to eliminate or transform in your life to become that version of you? So again, it might be your attitude. Maybe you revert to the negative a lot and you catastrophize things, or again, maybe it's certain habits. I recently took all social media apps off of my phone, and so for a long time I've had pretty strong boundaries around social media where I don't consume much of it, and I also use it at specific hours during the day, and I turn it off at a specific time. I don't take my phone out until a certain time. But still, just having it on the device that was near me was like a temptation that distracted me. So I took all those social media apps off my phone. I pulled out my old phone. I stripped it of everything, and I put Facebook and Instagram on there. And that phone is in my bedroom. I still haven't turned it on yet today. And I can't tell you how much more productive I am, not even just having the mental, distraction of thinking about going on those apps. And I have a dedicated time after this call to go on Instagram and do very specific business building things on Instagram. It could be your environment. It could be your thoughts or beliefs. So what do you have to eliminate or transform? And then I would say too, kind of the other side of that coin is, what do you need to embrace or embody to become that version of you? So think about those goals that you have and the things that you want. Are you stepping up to the plate and embodying someone that would actually achieve those things? Or are you trying to hit that future goal as the version of yourself you are today? Because newsflash, you're not going to hit and sustain that. You might hit it because the achievement thing, right? Like you can bust your butt and make it happen, but you're not going to sustain it, because if you were the version of yourself that was ready to hit and sustain it, you would have already hit it. So you have to actually evolve yourself in that process. Maybe it's your habits and practices, your actions, like how do you show up for your day? Maybe it's your value system. Like maybe you're not embracing certain values that will help you get there. I think about it from this perspective. Like I see a lot of women, they're like, oh, one of my big visions is that I'm going to become this really present mom, and I'm going to have great relationships with each of my children. And I'm like, okay, great. So where's the proof that that's actually going to come to fruition? Do you just think like 10 years are going to pass of you being addicted to your phone, snapping at your kids, being really impatient, not prioritizing that connection, but you think someday it's just going to happen? Because what you're compounding are the wrong things. You're actually moving in the wrong direction. We're never just sitting still. So you're compounding the good or you're compounding the not so good. And a lot of people are typically compounding the not so good because they have this vision and they think just like, let's just let time pass and eventually I'll get there. But I want to see that you are breaking that phone addiction and that you're spending that 1 hour of precious, really present time with your kids, proving that like I am working on this and I'm becoming that version of me. And I want to see you be hyper conscious that when your auto reaction is to snap or yell at your kids. I come from a long line of yellers. We are Italian and Arabic, like our normal volume is a scream, and then like we're very passionate people. But I don't want to scream at my kids. So, but I still do. So I have to be super hyper conscious of it, that when I scream at them or I raise my voice, one, I nip it in the bud and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm becoming more hyper aware of it. And then two, I sit down and I have that conversation with my kids of like, hey, I failed you on that one and I'm working on that, but I need you to hold me accountable to that too. And make sure that, mommy isn't, you don't allow mommy to just keep doing that over and over. So you need to like prove that you're actually becoming that version of yourself, because you're going to be sorely disappointed if you wake up in 10 years and you're like, crap, I'm an even worse mom and my kids like me even less, because you didn't do any of the things to ensure that it was going to happen. And that's for anything. That's for your business too. If you're putting this amazing goal of 15 star or whatever, million club or 6 figures or your first 50K or whatever, it can be literally any goal. Ask yourself, am I the version of myself I need to be in order to achieve, receive, and sustain that goal that I have? Or do I have some growth that I need to do and things I need to embody to be able to do that? So that's my long-winded version of that process. But I think it's so critical because I've seen it so many times being in this for a long time. And I can tell you, and Jess can tell you, I've gone through a lot of different things over the last few years with my health, and just it's been such a blessing to have a business that truly is self-sustaining and that is something that is continuing to grow, whether or not that I personally am putting my foot on that gas pedal. And it's allowed for so many freedoms and opportunities that we would have never had, but it wasn't just going to happen from the achieve category alone. There was a period in those first few years where I did grind and I hit the rank advancements and made more money. But then there came a period where I started to dip off and wonder, wait, what's happening here? Like, why isn't this just continuing to spike? And then I realized that my work, I had focused so much on my work, but I hadn't focused on the person that was doing the work and made sure that that person had a strong enough foundation and a growth strategy for herself in order to accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish in my business and in my life. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. I know I went fast, but I haven't looked at the chat, so forgive me if there are questions in there.
That was so powerful, so much gold, and I get to hear from you all the time. Thank you so much for sharing that. If you guys will either unmute yourself or put your questions in the chat. I did see one. Lily asked, what do you work on all morning outside of social media? Like, how do you grow your networking or your Beachbody business outside of social media?
So I've taken a lot of time to do a couple things. I actually don't work my business in the morning. That's time dedicated to my family and my kids. And then I go into the things, the becoming things. Like I do my reading, prayer. I have a really crazy health routine because I've had autoimmune issues. So I do my sauna time and different things for my health. So I prioritize the becoming piece more than I even prioritize the business. And then when I do go into business building behaviors outside of social media, so I've taken time to grow my email list. I think that's an incredibly important thing. Your social media could literally go away tomorrow. The algorithm could change and you could go from 10,000 views on your stories to 10 views on your stories. You have zero control over it, and it's least space. But your email list is something that you own and you can nurture that list. So I spend time nurturing that list and getting back to emails. And really, I'm not a big numbers person in this business. I've built big numbers as far as financially, but the wealth in this business doesn't come from quantity. It truly doesn't. There are coaches, top 10 coaches that you see that like name and lights and everything. They have to work so many freaking hours a week in order to achieve what they're achieving because their business is built on sand. Because the majority of their commissions is coming from their commission. The majority of their income is coming from their commissions. When you go into your commissions, click into it and then see where the money's coming from. If it's primarily coming from commissions, you haven't built enough leadership in your team. You want to see it coming from a matching bonus is the best. Cycle bonus is, but matching bonus is a good indicator too. And so I spend a lot of my time building relationships. So I nurture my team members. So I have calls with my coaches that are willing to walk forward on their journey. I'm not dragging anybody. And then I spend time building individual relationships in the hopes of bringing them onto the team. So my goal isn't social media, me to many, as much as it's me to one person, having in-depth conversation, finding out how I can help them and serve them, and trying to pull that best version out of themselves through this coaching opportunity. So that's where most of my time is spent.
That's awesome. I love that. I would love to know more about what you talk about on your one-on-ones with those people who do want it and how you develop your leaders.
So it's very similar to what Keith did to me in that they're asking me for strategy, but I'm focusing on like their belief or their energy around something or where their focus is. Like sometimes I can tell that they're focusing on the wrong thing and I have to pull them out of that and get them to focus on where they need to go. Jess, you could probably speak to that too. Like, what do you feel like? I mean, we do talk about strategy. We'll talk about different things that you can do in your business, but I feel like that's probably not the majority of our time.
I feel like especially when I came into your business, my personality thrives because I'm a very independent person. So if someone tried to tell me what to do and how I had to do it, it wouldn't have worked for my life at the time. So Liz's leadership is the best thing she ever did for me was, and this sounds so Pinteresty, but she showed me what was possible. I didn't know that this was possible. And at the time when I came in, she was pushing for 15 star. I didn't know what that was, but it was like she illuminated the way of this is a big goal that's possible. Let's do this together. And so I just kind of followed suit of, okay, well, what does that take? What does that look like? She created a Facebook page, so I was going to create a Facebook page. So for me, it's teaching people that this is teaching your husband how to make you lunch while you're on a call. That's very
Heck yeah.
Thank you, Jimmy James. It was more of teaching that the mindset tool of I'm gonna go first. We all as leaders are gonna go first, and we're just gonna show them. Now you figure out what this looks like for you, and that like me and Liz, we run our businesses differently too, and that's okay. But paving that way was honestly the best thing that helped me. And then her being there so that I know I always felt this was not because of her, but I felt like I needed to earn her time. And again, this wasn't Liz telling me you need to earn my time. It was, I felt like I didn't want to call her and ask her silly questions. I wanted to prove myself. And then we'd get on a call and go through And then she would help me map out my vision. Where do I want to go? Awesome. And she would tell me, you have no idea what you stumbled onto. You can absolutely do this. This is what you have to do in the meantime. And that was really why I
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think to kind of piggyback on that, sometimes, well, first of all, best thing you could ever do for your business is find yourself a handful of Jesses, because like I'm telling you, she's a rare gem in that she's independent and she's resourceful, and that attitude she had of like, I'm not going to waste my coach's time, is the same attitude that I had with Keith. And I think it's just a testament to like that fire and that spirit. I'll tell you, most people are like, what can you do for me? Why aren't you reaching out to me? Why are you not helping me be more successful? Why didn't you call and check in with me? Like, I can't tell you how many of my coaches over the years have been like that. And it's like, no, you got to take ownership. Like, you just open the doors to your business. I'm not your mama. I'm not your boss. I am a mentor. I am bumper lanes for you. You have to want this. You have to go after this. That's not my job to tell you how to do that. Go figure that out. There's an FAQ for it. There's Google, there's YouTube. Like, be resourceful and figure this out. And guess what? That turns a lot of people off, but I know those probably aren't the people that are going to build a big business anyway. So I shift my focus to the ones like Jess, who are like, okay, fine, I'll receive that and I will tell me what to do next. But really putting your energy into like instilling that belief in them, so that not so that you can't be the crutch. So sometimes you'll instill that belief in them, and for them to function, you have to keep instilling that belief in them. The goal is to instill that belief in them in a way that teaches them how to believe in themselves. That's where the value is.
I feel like I have really I can get people started, get them to success starter, and then from there is my problem. So do you feel like those are the people I should be focusing on when when people are hitting Success Club regularly, like reaching out and doing one-on-one, like
yeah,
more of a quality person too. I really like to get to know my people well.
So the conversation that you need to have when they obviously have the skill set, right? Like they're hitting Success Starter, Success Club, but something's not advancing. That's where you have like the depth conversation. Like, okay, what's the real vision for this? Like, are we on the path to hit that vision? It's not like a keep pushing, make sure you hit Success Club again next month. It's like, okay, what do you really want? Do you want me to push you? Do I have permission to hold you accountable? This is what I see for you. Like now, do you think you can push to this goal? It's helping, like you've got to have more conversations where you're asking them those questions, and leadership really is listening more than talking. So I think in the early stages of my business, I would get on the phone with my coaches and I would talk for like 25 minutes of the 30 minutes we were going to chat. Whereas now it's like, I just open the door and then I listen and guide. And that's really the focus.
Thank you. It's really helpful.
I saw Julia's question. How do you tell them that they need to do it themselves without hurting her feelings? So have you guys ever taken the Danny Johnson GEMS personality test? There are 4 gems. There's sapphire, pearl, ruby, and emerald. And pearls tend to get their feelings hurt quite easily, and they want to be like nurtured more than sold, and they want to feel taken care of, and they're the ones that kind of get offended if they feel like you're not like checking in with them all the time, that kind of stuff. Great test to take for yourself, great test to have your coaches take, because you should adapt your coaching style. You don't adapt your coaching principles, you adapt your coaching style based on the people you're talking to. So when you have someone that's likely a pearl, Julia, based on like if their feelings might get hurt, honesty is still the best policy. You can't control, like, it's not a free ticket to be a giant B, but you can't take responsibility for someone else's emotions as long as you're showing up with a kind heart and good intentions, right? So there are things you can say with a kind heart and good intentions that still someone is going to take offense to it, mostly because they're not doing what they should be doing to elevate to the next level. And like, that's really what's hurting them, but they need a place to point it. So they point it at you. When I have someone that's more that personality type, which I tend not to attract them because I'm very blunt right from the beginning. So like most people don't want to work with me if they're that personality. But I just tell them, I said, you know what, I've done this for a long time. And in the beginning, I did everything for everybody. I was constantly checking in. I was looking up the answers for them. I was passing them information. And I realized I was doing them a disservice. And then I lift them up. I tell them what I see in them. But for you, I see a huge opportunity for you to step into leadership. I see that you can build a business that's going to change your family's life. And I don't want to strip you of that opportunity. And if I just hand you the answers, or if I'm constantly checking in, or if I'm doing it for you, I'm taking away that opportunity from you. So here is how I operate. And right from the beginning with a new coach, I tell them right away my SOPs, my standard operating procedures. They know they don't get my cell phone number until there's someone like a Jess. They don't get my cell phone number. Post it in the Facebook group, because if you have that question, someone else in the team likely has that question too. If you don't hear back from me, just tag me so I don't miss it. Then it's like, if you have something personal you want to talk about, shoot me a Facebook message or shoot me an email, because that's where I actually organize things. I don't organize my Facebook messages. And book a call with me. Every Tuesday, you have the opportunity to book a one-on-one call and we can chat. And I don't care if you want to book one every Tuesday. Great, let's do it. So I just let them know my process. And that way they're not offended when I'm like stripping, they feel like I'm stripping it away. There was a point where I had to ultimately strip it away because I basically was on call. Like it was like a Wednesday night at 11:45 p.m. and I had coaches being like, oh my God, I'm projected to lose rank. And I was like panicking, trying to help them. Now I'm like, figure shit out on Monday so that you're not panicking on a Wednesday, and don't call me that late. Like that's not how you should be ahead of the game. And if you lose your rank, guess what? It's not brain surgery. You're going to be fine. You're going to feel that sting and it'll teach you not to make that mistake again. So creating independent coaches is really critical, no matter what personality type they are, truly for them, not just for you. So any other questions? I don't think I saw any others.
I don't think I did either. I was looking really quick. Also, one of the things, I know, Liz, that you had mentioned, this was before me, but when it was one of the years when you really jumped in rank and depth of leadership was when you went through the John C. Maxwell leadership workbook together as a team. And that was a huge thing.
Huge. Yeah, I saw Jess mentioned it in the comments, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership workbook. The book is great too, but the workbook, if you're ADD like me and you want things like a little more actionable and fast paced, the workbook's great. And you don't have to read the book to be able to benefit from the workbook. And it's a great thing to do with your team. My coaches really elevated when we did that. That was when we jumped from 4-star to 10-star and then from 10-star to 15-star very quickly. So highly recommend it. And it's great for you too. You can do it on your own too. It teaches a lot about leadership and it helps you to embody it more than just study it.
Awesome. Cool, Liz. Well, thank you so much for your time. I have a ton of notes that I'm going to go study, and then I'm going to be booking my Tuesday call with you. I'm just kidding.
Yes, please.
I hope that you all have an amazing day. Congratulations for everyone who earned this call. Go out and change some lives, everybody. See ya.
Bye. Thanks.